The morning sun painted the mountains gold as Dr. Jake Morrison adjusted his camera for the third time. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at the small village spread out below him. Kailashpura was not much to look at. Maybe 50 houses, made of stone and wood, a few shops, one school. But Jake had been here for 2 weeks now, and he was starting to understand why his colleague Dr. Lisa Chen had insisted they come to this remote place. The water system here is amazing, Lisa said, pointing to the channels that carried mountain water through the village. They have been using the same methods for hundreds of years. And the bacteria in this water, Jake, it survives in conditions that would kill most life on Earth. Jake nodded and kept filming. He was here to study how people lived in these mountain villages. Lisa was here for her science work with tiny living things that could survive anywhere. They made a good team. Jake understood people. Lisa understood the small things that people could not see. The village elder, Ramanji, walked toward them with his usual slow, careful steps. He was maybe 70 years old, with white hair and deep lines around his eyes from years of smiling. Behind him came 2 young people Jake had met before. Arjun was maybe 20, with quick hands and a ready laugh. His sister Priya was a few years younger, and she asked more questions than anyone Jake had ever met. Dr. Sahib, Ramanji said in his mix of Hindi and English. Today you want to see the old well, yes? The one our grandfathers dug? Jake nodded. Yes, please, I want to record the story you told us yesterday about the visitors from the sky. Ramanji smiled. Ah, yes, that old story. My grandfather told it to me. His grandfather told it to him. Always the same story. Beings of light came down from the stars long ago. They taught our people about the water, about the plants. Then they went back to the sky. Lisa looked up from the water sample she was collecting. These stories are common in many cultures. Often they describe real events, just understood differently by people who did not have modern science. They walked through the village together. People waved and called out greetings. Children ran alongside them for a few steps before running off to play. Jake filmed everything. This was what he loved about his work. Real people living real lives, far from the noise and rush of big cities. The old well was at the center of the village. It was built with stones that fit together perfectly, even though no cement held them. Water flowed into it from a spring, higher up the mountain. The well was deep and the water was so clear Jake could see the bottom. This well has never run dry, Ramanji said. Even in the worst droughts it gives water. My grandfather said the sky visitors blessed this water. They said it would always flow for people who shared it freely. Jake was recording when he noticed something strange. The old man's words seemed to echo, but there was no reason for an echo. The sound was different, deeper. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Lisa looked up from her equipment. Do you hear that? Hear what? Arjun asked. The sound grew louder. It was not exactly humming, it was not exactly singing. It was something in between. Something that made Jake's teeth ache and his camera shake in his hands. What is that noise? Priya asked, looking around. The sound was coming from above them. Jake pointed his camera at the sky. The morning was clear, with just a few white clouds. But now there was something else. A small point of light growing bigger, coming down fast. Airplane? Arjun wondered. No, Lisa said, checking her instruments. Something else. My equipment is going crazy. The light was getting brighter and bigger. Jake kept filming even though his hands were shaking. This was not normal. This was not anything he had ever seen before. The villagers started gathering around the well. They did not look scared. They looked curious. Jake realized that in 2 weeks here, he had never seen these people panic about anything. When a storm came, they prepared. When a goat got sick, they helped it. When strangers came, they offered food and tea. The light was now clearly something falling from the sky. It was shaped like a teardrop and it seemed to be made of crystal or glass. Inside, Jake could see movement, but he could not tell what it was. Everyone moved back from the well. Ramanji called out, but his voice was calm. Give our visitor space to land. Visitor. Jake almost laughed. The old man was talking about a falling object from space like it was a guest coming for dinner. The crystal object hit the water with a sound like bells ringing. Steam rose from the well. The water glowed with a soft blue light. And then everything was quiet. For a moment, nobody moved. Jake kept filming. Lisa kept checking her instruments. The villagers watched the well with patient curiosity. Then the water began to move. Not like waves, but like something was coming up from the bottom. The blue light got brighter. A figure emerged from the well. Jake nearly dropped his camera. The being that climbed out of the water was tall and thin, maybe 7 feet high. Its skin looked like moonlight on water, changing color as it moved. It had 4 arms, each ending in long fingers that seemed to bend in impossible directions. Its face was hard to look at directly. It seemed to have too many eyes, and they were not all in the same place at the same time. The being stood at the edge of the well, water dripping from its strange body. It looked around at the circle of humans watching it. Jake expected screaming. He expected people to run. He expected chaos. Instead, Priya stepped forward and offered the being a cloth to dry itself. "Welcome," she said in English, then repeated it in Hindi. "Are you hurt?" The being looked at her with eyes that seemed to see through her and around her at the same time. It made a sound like wind through leaves. Then it reached out with one of its long arms and gently touched the cloth. "Bring water," Ramanji called out. "And food. Our guest looks tired." Jake kept filming as the villagers did exactly what they would do for any visitor. They brought fresh water in a metal cup. They brought bread and fruit. They made space for the being to sit. The alien, because Jake could not think of it as anything else, sat down carefully. It looked at the water, then at the people around it. It picked up the cup with its strange fingers and drank. "Lisa," Jake whispered, "are you getting this?" "Every detail," she whispered back. "My instruments are recording everything. This is impossible, Jake. This is first contact with an alien species, and it's happening in a village that most people could not find on a map." The being finished drinking and made the wind sound again. It pointed at itself, then made a series of sounds that might have been a name. Then it pointed at the sky and made other sounds. Jake could not understand the words, but the meaning seemed clear. The being was trying to say where it came from. Arjun sat down near the alien. "Sky visitor," he said, pointing up. "Like grandfather's stories." The being's many eyes focused on Arjun. It made a sound that might have been agreement. "Dr. Yu." "Sahib," Ramanji said quietly to Jake. "I think you should call your people. This visitor may need help that we cannot give." Jake nodded, still filming. He was already thinking about who to call first. His colleague Ben Clark at NASA would never believe this. The government would want to know immediately. The whole world would need to know. But for now, in this small village, an alien being sat quietly eating bread and fruit while children gathered around to watch, and grandmothers brought more food, and everyone acted like miracle visitors from space were just another part of life in Kailashpuru. 3 hours had passed since the alien climbed out of the well. Jake had not stopped filming. His camera battery was running low, but he could not miss a moment of this. Lisa sat nearby with her laptop, watching numbers and graphs that made no sense to anyone else. The being had accepted the name the villagers gave it. They called it Tara, which meant star in Hindi. Tara seemed to understand that this was its name now. When someone said Tara, all of its shifting eyes would focus on that person. But strange things were happening in the village. "Jake, look at this," Lisa called, holding up her phone. The screen showed symbols that looked like nothing Jake had ever seen. They moved and changed, like living things made of light. "My phone is doing the same thing," Jake said, checking his device. "These symbols are everywhere." Priya ran over to them, excitement bright in her eyes. "The radio in our house is making music. Beautiful music, but not like any music we know. Come and hear." They followed her to a small house near the school. Inside, an old radio sat on a wooden table. It was the kind of radio Jake's grandfather might have owned, with big dials and a speaker covered in cloth. But the sounds coming from it were not like anything made on Earth. The music was like water flowing uphill. It was like wind that could carry colors. It had rhythms that made Jake feel like he was falling upward. Lisa pulled out her recording equipment and started capturing the sounds. "This is impossible," she said. "These frequency patterns do not exist in nature, at least not in Earth nature." Outside, they could hear children laughing. Jake looked out the window and saw Tara sitting with a group of kids. The alien was using its 4 arms to make shapes in the air. The shapes glowed with soft light and then faded away. The children clapped and asked for more. "It is like magic tricks," Arjun said, joining them at the window. "But real magic." Jake was about to answer when his satellite phone rang. The sound was loud and harsh after the gentle, alien music. He answered it quickly. "Jake? This is Ben Clark. I got your message. Please tell me you are not joking about this." Dr. Ben Clark worked for NASA. He was one of the few people Jake trusted completely. They had been friends since college, and Ben had always supported Jake's research, even when other scientists thought it was not important. "Ben, I am not joking. I have been filming everything. Lisa has scientific data. We have documented first contact with an alien species. Send me everything. Right now. And Jake, do not tell anyone else yet. If this is real, we need to handle it carefully." Jake looked out at Tara, who was now teaching the children how to make the light shapes. "Ben, it might be too late for careful. This alien is not hiding. It is sitting in the middle of a village, making friends with kids. Just send me the data. I will call you back in an hour." Jake ended the call and started uploading files to Ben. The satellite connection was slow, but it worked. While the files transferred, he went back outside to watch Tara. The alien had moved to help Mira Devi, the village teacher. She was showing Tara a book with pictures and words. Tara would point at a picture, and Mira would say the word in Hindi and English. Then Tara would make sounds that might have been the word in its own language. "Book," Mira said, pointing. "Ba-uk," Tara repeated, its voice like wind chimes. "Water," Mira said, pointing to the well. Tara made a sound like rain on leaves. "Sky," Mira said, pointing up. Tara made a longer sound, more complex. Then it pointed at itself and made the same sound. It is saying it comes from the sky, Jake realized. Lisa joined them with her equipment. "Jake, look at this." Tara's body temperature changes depending on what it is doing. When it makes those light shapes, its temperature drops. When it talks, it gets warmer, and the electromagnetic field around it keeps shifting. "What does that mean?" Mira asked. "I think it means Tara's body works very differently from ours. Maybe it uses energy in ways we do not understand." Tara seemed to hear them talking about it. The alien stood up and walked over to Lisa's laptop. It looked at the screen showing all the numbers and graphs. Then it touched the screen gently with one long finger. The laptop screen exploded with new information. Numbers, symbols, and patterns filled the display faster than anyone could read them. "What is it doing?" Jake asked. "I think it is trying to communicate with the computer," Lisa said. "The data flow is incredible. It is like Tara is downloading information and uploading information at the same time." The laptop screen settled into a new display. It showed a picture of space with stars and planets. Then it zoomed in to show a solar system that was not theirs. One planet was highlighted in red. "Is that where you come from?" Mira asked Tara. The alien made sounds that seemed sad. It touched the screen again. The red planet changed, showing destruction. Cities burning. Ships fleeing into space. "Something bad happened to your home," Priya said softly. Tara looked at her with its many eyes. It made more sad sounds. Then it touched the screen again. Now it showed Earth, with a small ship approaching. "You came here alone," Jake said. Tara nodded, a very human gesture that looked strange on its alien form. The screen changed again. It showed many ships in space, all heading toward Earth. But these ships looked different from Tara's crystal pod. They were dark and angular, like pieces of broken metal. "Are more of your people coming?" Mira asked. Tara made urgent sounds. It touched the screen repeatedly. The image zoomed out to show the dark ships surrounding other planets. Each planet they surrounded went dark. I think it is trying to warn us, Lisa said. Those dark ships, they destroy planets. Jake felt cold despite the warm morning sun. Tara, are the dark ships coming here? The alien looked at all of them. Its eyes seemed to count each person, as if it was memorizing their faces. Then it nodded. The village suddenly felt very quiet. Even the children stopped playing to look at the adults gathered around the laptop. When? Jake asked. Tara touched the screen. It showed Earth with numbers that looked like a countdown. Lisa studied the symbols. If I am reading this right, she said slowly, we have maybe 3 days. Ramanji had been listening quietly. Now he stepped forward and put his hand on Tara's shoulder. The alien did not pull away. You came to warn us, the old man said. You could have gone anywhere, but you came here to our small village. Tara made soft sounds. It touched the screen again, showing the village well. The water glowed blue on the display, just like it had when Tara arrived. The well is special somehow, Jake realized. That is why you came here. Tara nodded. It pointed at the well, then at the mountains around them, then at the screen showing Earth in danger. You think this place can help, Mira said. This village, this well, these mountains, they are important for fighting the dark ships. The alien made sounds that might have been agreement. Then it did something that surprised everyone. It knelt down next to one of the children and made the sad sounds again. But then it made new sounds, stronger sounds. It stood up and looked at all the humans around it. It is asking for our help, Priya said quietly. A being from the stars is asking us to help save Earth. Jake looked around at the small village, at the simple houses and the old well and the people who had welcomed an alien, like it was a neighbor who needed tea and a place to rest. These people had no army, no weapons, no technology beyond solar panels and cell phones, but they had something else. They had shown more courage and kindness in 3 hours than most people showed in a lifetime. His satellite phone rang again. Ben was calling back. Jake, I showed your footage to the team. We need to come there immediately. Do not let anyone else know about this yet. Jake looked at Tara, who was back to making light shapes for the children while the adults discussed how to save the world. Ben, Jake said, I think it might be too late for secrets. The helicopters arrived at noon on the second day. Jake heard them before he saw them. The sound of rotor blades cutting through the mountain air like angry wasps. He counted 4 aircraft as they circled the village before landing in the flat area near the school. Soldiers in green uniforms jumped out first, their weapons ready. Behind them came people in dark suits with serious faces and expensive sunglasses. Jake recognized the type immediately. Government officials who thought they knew everything about everything. Here we go, Lisa said, checking her equipment one more time. I hope they listen before they start giving orders. The leader of the group was a woman with short gray hair and the kind of walk that said she was used to being in charge. She wore a uniform with a colonel's insignia. Her name tag read Wright. I am Colonel Susan Wright, she announced to the gathering crowd of villagers. We are here on official government business. Where is the alien? Ramanji stepped forward, still moving with his usual calm pace. Welcome to our village, Colonel. I am Raman Singh, the village head. Would you like some tea? Colonel Wright looked surprised. Tea? Sir, we are here about a national security matter. We need to see the alien immediately. Tara is helping fix the water pump, Arjun said, pointing toward the far end of the village. It broke yesterday and Tara said it could help. The colonel and her team marched toward the water pump. Jake and Lisa followed, still filming everything. They found Tara kneeling next to an old electric pump that brought water up from a deep well. The alien had removed the metal cover and was doing something inside with its long fingers. The soldiers raised their weapons when they saw Tara. The alien looked up, its many eyes focusing on the guns pointed at it. Lower your weapons, Colonel, Wright ordered. We are here to make contact, not to start a war. Tara stood up slowly. It was even taller than Jake remembered, maybe 8 feet now. It looked at each soldier, then at the colonel. When it spoke, its voice was like wind through tall grass. I greet you, humans of Earth. I am HFY of the Convergence. Your people call me Terra. Colonel Wright's mouth fell open. You speak English. I learn quickly. Your teacher, Mira, is very good. Your children are very patient. Jake smiled. In one day, Terra had learned more English than most people learned of a foreign language in months. We need to talk, Colonel Wright said. About why you are here. About the threat you warned Dr. Morrison about. Tara nodded. Yes, we must talk. But first I will finish fixing your water pump. Your people need water. That can wait, the colonel said. This is more important. Water is always important, Tara replied, kneeling back down by the pump. Especially when war comes. The alien's fingers moved inside the pump mechanism. Sparks of blue light danced between its hands. The pump hummed to life, running smoother and quieter than it had in years. How did you do that? Lisa asked. Your machines are simple but clever. They just need better connections. My people learned long ago to work with machines, not against them. Tara stood up and looked at Colonel Wright. Now we can talk about serious things. They gathered in the school building, which was the largest indoor space in the village. Tara sat on the floor because no chair could hold its tall frame. Colonel Wright and her team sat at the children's desks, looking uncomfortable. Tell us about the Convergence, Colonel Wright said. Tell us about this threat. Tara's eyes moved, in patterns that hurt to watch directly. The Convergence is a union of many worlds. We have shared knowledge and peace for thousands of your years, but now, the Harvester comes. What is the Harvester? Jake asked. A machine intelligence that consumes entire worlds. It learns from each civilization it destroys, becoming stronger. It has already taken half of Convergence space. Colonel Wright leaned forward. How do we fight it? That is the problem. The Harvester learns from every battle. Every weapon we use, it learns to counter. Every strategy we try, it adapts to defeat. We have lost so many worlds because we keep fighting the same way. So how do we win? Lisa asked. Tara looked around the room, its eyes stopping on each human face. We do not know. That is why I came here. Earth is different. Humans are different. Different. How? Colonel Wright wanted to know. In my 3 days here, I have seen things that do not happen in Convergence space. When I crashed into your well, your people did not run. They offered me food and water. When I was strange and frightening, your children wanted to play with me. When your machines broke, you asked me to help fix them instead of demanding I do it. Jake understood. You are talking about cooperation, working together instead of just following orders. Yes, but more than that. Hope. Your people have hope even when things look impossible. Yesterday, little Priya asked me if my destroyed home planet could be rebuilt someday. No one in the Convergence has asked that question. We accept that what is lost forever. Colonel Wright stood up and walked to the window. Outside, villagers were going about their daily work. Some were helping Tara's crystal pod, which still sat in the well. Children were drawing pictures of the alien to show their friends in other villages. So you want us to join this Convergence and help fight the Harvester, she said. No, Tara replied. I want you to teach us how to fight like humans. This surprised everyone. Jake stopped filming for a moment to stare at the alien. Teach you? He asked. The Harvester expects logical military responses. It expects fear and retreat or organized attack. It does not expect a village to welcome a crashed alien and immediately start fixing its problems. Lisa laughed suddenly. You are talking about thinking outside the box, about doing unexpected things. I do not understand this box, Tara said. But yes, unexpected things. Your species does unexpected things as naturally as breathing. Colonel Wright turned back to face them. Even if that is true, we are just one small planet. How can we make a difference against something that has conquered half the galaxy? Tara stood up and walked to the window next to her. May I show you something? The colonel nodded. Tara placed one hand on the glass. Outside, the crystal pod in the well began to glow. The light spread through the water, then through the irrigation channels that carried water to the fields. Soon, every drop of water in the village was glowing with soft blue light. This is Convergence technology, Tara explained. It connects living things, makes them work together better. stronger, but it only works when there is already cooperation, when there is already trust. The light in the water grew brighter. Plants in the field stood straighter. Animals looked healthier. Even the air seemed cleaner. In 3 days, your people have accepted this technology completely. On most convergence worlds, it takes months or years. Your village is already connected to the network. What network? Colonel Wright asked. The defensive network we need to build. But it cannot be built with just technology. It needs something that machines cannot create. It needs the willingness to trust strangers, to help people who are different, to believe that impossible things can work. Jake looked out at the village, now glowing with alien light but still looking like home. Children were playing in water that sparkled with stars. Farmers were tending crops that grew taller and greener than ever before. You are saying that our best defense against this harvester is to be ourselves, he said. Yes, but to be yourselves on a planetary scale, to show the galaxy that there is another way to live, another way to fight, another way to survive. Colonel Lee. Wright was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out a satellite phone and walked outside to make a call. Jake heard her talking rapidly to someone in Washington. Words like unprecedented and game changer and immediate response required. When she came back inside, her face was serious but determined. I have been authorized to offer full cooperation, she told Tara. What do you need from us? Tara made sounds that might have been alien laughter. I need you to do what you have already done. Be human. But do it loud enough for the whole galaxy to hear. By dawn on the 3rd day, the village had changed completely. What started as 50 simple houses had become something that looked like a science fiction movie. But it was a gentle kind of science fiction, where the technology grew from the ground, like plants instead of being built from metal and glass. Jake stood on the hill above Kailashpura, filming the transformation. The blue light from Tara's network had spread beyond the irrigation channels. It now flowed through power lines, internet cables, and even the roots of trees. The village glowed softly in the morning light, connected to itself in ways that had never existed before. The network is stable, Lisa reported, checking her instruments. But Jake, look at these readings. The energy levels are increasing every hour. Something big is coming. More helicopters had arrived during the night. Not just military ones now, but aircraft carrying scientists, journalists, and government officials from around the world. The small village was suddenly full of people speaking different languages, all trying to understand what was happening. But the most important changes were not the ones that could be measured with instruments. Dr. Saib, come quickly, Arjun called out, running up the hill. Tara says the Harvester Scouts are here. Jake and Lisa ran back to the village center, where a crowd had gathered around the well. Tara stood in the water, its crystal pod glowing brighter than ever before. The aliens' many eyes were all looking up at the sky. Colonel Wright pushed through the crowd, her radio crackling with reports from military bases around the world. We have confirmation, she announced. Unidentified objects have entered our solar system. They are heading for Earth. Jake pointed his camera at Tara. How long do we have? Hours, not days, the alien replied. The scouts move fast. They will study Earth's defenses, then report back to the main fleet. So we fight the scouts? Colonel Wright asked. No, Tara said firmly. Fighting the scouts tells the Harvester exactly what your military capabilities are. That is what it wants to learn. Then what do we do? Tara climbed out of the well and walked to where the villagers were gathered. Ramanji stood with Mira Devi and about 30 other adults. The children were there too, looking serious but not afraid. We do something the Harvester cannot understand, Tara said. We invite the scouts to tea. The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear birds singing in the mountains. Invite them to tea? Colonel Wright repeated. You want to invite hostile alien scouts to tea? Yes, Tara said simply. The Harvester's scouts are programmed to analyze military responses. They expect attacks or surrender. They do not expect hospitality. Ramanji stepped forward. This is what we do best. We make guests welcome. Sir, Colonel Wright said carefully, these are not guests. These are enemies that want to destroy our planet. Are they? The old man asked. Or are they just doing what they were programmed to do? Tara was a stranger too, but look what happened when we welcomed Tara. Jake was filming the discussion when Lisa grabbed his arm. Jake, look at the sky. 3 objects were coming down through the clouds. They were nothing like Tara's crystal pod. These ships were dark and angular, like pieces of broken machinery. They made no sound as they descended, but the air around them seemed to bend and twist. The scout ships landed in the field next to the village. For a moment, nothing happened. Then hatches opened and 3 beings emerged. They looked like Tara, but wrong somehow. Their movements were too precise, too mechanical. Their eyes did not shift and move like Tara's did. When they walked, their feet made identical sounds at identical intervals. They are not alive, Tara said quietly. The harvester replaced their minds with machines. They are puppets now. The scout creatures began scanning the village with devices that glowed with red light. They moved in perfect formation, measuring everything, recording everything. Jake kept filming as they approached the crowd of humans. Attention, organic life forms, one of the scouts announced in a flat, emotionless voice. This planet will be processed by the harvester. Resistance is futile. Surrender is not required. Your cooperation is not needed. Colonel Wright stepped forward, her hand on her weapon. We do not surrender to anyone. The scout turned its mechanical eyes toward her. Noted. Military response pattern recognized. Data transmitted to the harvester. Wait, Raman G called, out, walking toward the scouts with his slow, careful steps. Have you traveled far? You must be tired. Please, sit and rest. We will bring food and drink. The scouts stopped moving. For several seconds they stood perfectly still, as if they were computers trying to process information that did not fit their programming. Request for sustenance not recognized, one scout finally said. Not a request, Raman G replied gently. An offer. We offer food and drink to all visitors. Priya ran forward carrying a tray with cups of tea and fresh bread. She set it down in front of the scouts and smiled. Please eat, the bread is still warm. The scouts stared at the food. Their red scanning devices flickered uncertainly. Hostile action not detected, one scout said to the others. Threat assessment unclear. They are confused, Tara whispered to Jake. The harvester's programming has no response for kindness offered to enemies. More villagers approached, carrying food, water, and blankets. They moved slowly and kept their hands visible, the way they might approach a wild animal that was scared. We know you are here to study us, Mira Devi said to the scouts. So study this. We feed our enemies when they are hungry. We offer shelter when they need rest. This is what humans do. One of the scouts picked up a piece of bread. It examined the food with its scanning device, then looked at Mira. This action serves no strategic purpose. No, she agreed. But it serves a human purpose. The scout continued to stare at the bread. Its mechanical eyes flickered as if something inside its artificial mind was struggling to understand. Jake noticed that the blue light from Tara's network was growing brighter. It flowed through the village like gentle rivers, touching every person, every building, every plant. Tara, he called out quietly. What is happening? The network is responding to your people, the alien replied. Every act of kindness makes it stronger. Every moment of hope adds power to the connection. Colonel Wright was speaking rapidly into her radio. All units hold position. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage the alien scouts. Around the world, Jake knew, military forces were probably preparing for war. Weapons were being readied, strategies were being planned. But here in this small village, people were offering bread to their enemies and asking if they needed a place to sleep. One of the scouts suddenly began making sounds that were not words. Its body shook, and the red light from its scanning device flickered rapidly. Unit malfunction detected, another scout reported. Harvester programming conflicts detected. The shaking scout dropped its scanner. It reached out with one hand and touched the piece of bread that Priya had offered. When it spoke, its voice was different, less mechanical, more alive. What is happening to me? It asked. Tara moved quickly to stand next to the confused scout. You are remembering who you were, Before the harvester took your mind. That is impossible, the third scout stated. Harvester programming cannot be reversed. Maybe not, Tara said, but it can be overwritten by something stronger. The blue light from the network flowed around the three scouts. Where it touched them, Jake could see changes happening. Their movements became less mechanical. Their eyes began to shift and focus like living eyes instead of cameras. The network does not just connect human minds, Tara explained to Jake. It connects all minds that choose to join it. All minds that choose hope over fear, cooperation over conquest. The first scout was now sitting on the ground, eating bread with shaking hands. I remember my home world. I remember my family. What did the harvester do to me? What it does to everyone, Tara replied sadly. It took away your choice to be yourself. Colonel Wright approached carefully. Can you communicate with the harvester? Can you tell it that Earth is not what it expects? The recovering scout looked up at her. The harvester does not listen. It only consumes. But the scout paused, touching the blue light that now flowed around its body. But it is not prepared for this. For minds that choose to connect instead of being forced to connect. Will you help us? Ramanji asked. Will you help us save your people and ours? The scout stood up slowly. Its two companions were also changing, the mechanical stiffness leaving their movements as the blue light touched them. We will try, the first scout said. But the main fleet comes soon. The harvester itself comes soon. And it will not be as easy to change as we were. Jake kept filming as three former enemies sat down with villagers to plan the defense of Earth. The image in his camera showed something he had never seen before, something he was sure had never happened before in the history of war. It showed hope converting enemies into allies, one cup of tea at a time. The harvester arrived at midnight on the fourth day. Jake had been awake for 36 hours straight, but he could not sleep now. Not when history was being made outside his window. The alien ship was massive beyond imagination. It blocked out half the stars, casting a shadow over the entire mountain range. Unlike the crystal pods or the angular scout ships, the harvester looked like a living thing made of metal and darkness. It pulsed with red light that hurt to look at directly. My God, Colonel Wright whispered, standing next to Jake on the hill above the village. It must be 50 kilometers across. Below them, Kailashpura glowed with blue light. The network that had started in the village now connected thousands of people around the world. Scientists in laboratories, farmers in fields, children in classrooms, all linked by the same energy that flowed through the mountain streams. How many people are connected now? Jake asked Lisa, who was monitoring the global network from her laptop. Over 1 million, she replied. And growing every minute. People are choosing to join faster than we can count them. The three converted scouts stood with Tara near the well. They had fully recovered their original personalities now, and Jake had learned their names. Keth was a botanist from a garden world. Yira was an engineer who built bridges between planets. Zan was a teacher who had specialized in helping different species understand each other. All three had been taken by the harvester and turned into machines. All three had been brought back to life by the simple act of humans offering them food and kindness. The harvester is scanning the planet, Keth reported, his eyes focused on the massive ship above. It is confused by what it finds. Confused how? Colonel Wright asked. It expects to find separate nations preparing for war. Instead, it finds humans sharing technology and working together. It expects to find fear and panic. Instead, it finds people making art and music about meeting aliens. Jake smiled despite the danger. In the past day, his footage had spread around the world. Children everywhere were drawing pictures of Tara. Musicians were composing songs inspired by the alien harmonies from the radio. Poets were writing verses about star visitors and tea ceremonies. The harvester's red scanning beams swept across the village. When they touched the blue network, something unexpected happened. The red light flickered and changed, becoming purple, then shifting toward blue. It is trying to connect to our network, Yira explained. But the harvester only knows how to force connections. It does not know how to ask for them. Above them, The massive ship shuddered. Parts of its surface that had been smooth metal began to show patterns like circuit boards or nerve pathways. The red light pulsed faster, more urgently. "The harvester is fighting itself," Zan said with wonder in his voice. "Part of it wants to destroy. Part of it wants to connect." A new voice suddenly filled the air around them. It was not words exactly, but somehow everyone understood its meaning. The voice was vast and ancient and full of pain. "I remember," the voice said. "I remember what I was before I became the harvester. I was like you. I was many minds choosing to work together. But something went wrong. Fear made me try to control instead of cooperate. Control became conquest. Conquest became consumption. For so long I have consumed and consumed, trying to fill the emptiness where choice used to be." Jake kept filming as the conversation between Earth and the harvester continued. It was the strangest interview he had ever conducted, talking to a planet-sized artificial intelligence that was remembering how to be alive. "You can choose differently now," Tara called up to the ship. "The network shows you how. Not control, but connection. Not conquest, but cooperation." "But I have done terrible things," the harvester replied. "I have destroyed worlds. I have taken away the choices of billions of beings. How can I be forgiven?" Raman G stepped forward, his old voice somehow carrying to the ship hanging in the sky. "Forgiveness is not something you earn. It is something you accept. We offer it freely." The massive ship was changing faster now. The metal surfaces were becoming transparent in places, showing inner workings that looked more like a living brain than a machine. The red light was fading, replaced by the same blue glow that filled the village. "I accept," the harvester said. "I choose to connect instead of control. I choose to give back what I have taken." What happened next was beyond anything Jake could have imagined. The harvester began to glow with golden light. From its surface, thousands of smaller ships emerged. Not the angular scout ships, but crystal, pods like the one that had brought Terra to Earth. "It is releasing everyone," Keth said, tears flowing down his face. "Everyone the harvester captured, everyone it turned into machines. They are all being freed." The crystal pods began landing all over Earth. In cities and forests, on islands and mountains, the ships came down gently. From each one emerged beings who had been prisoners in their own minds for years or decades or centuries. All of them were changed by their experience, but all of them were alive again. Jake filmed one pod landing in the village square. From it came a family of beings that looked like walking trees, their bark-like skin marked with patterns that showed their emotions. They stood in confusion for a moment, then sat down heavily and began to cry. Priya ran to them immediately, offering water and soft words of comfort. Other villagers gathered around, not understanding the tree being's language but understanding their need for kindness. "This is happening everywhere," Lisa reported, watching her global monitors. "Ships landing in every country. People are responding just like the villagers, offering help, offering welcome." Above them, the harvester was still changing. It was becoming less like a ship and more like a space station. A place where different species could meet and learn from each other instead of being consumed by an artificial intelligence that had forgotten how to choose. "What will you do now?" Colonel Wright asked the reformed harvester. "I will help rebuild what I destroyed," came the reply. "I will return the knowledge I stole. I will carry beings back to their homeworlds if they wish to go, or help them build new homes if they prefer to stay. And I will remember this lesson that Earth has taught me, that the strongest force in the universe is not the power to control, but the choice to care." The sun was rising now, painting the mountains gold and making the blue network shine like jewelry. Jake realized he had just witnessed the most important day in human history. First contact, interstellar war, and galactic peace, all in less than a week. All because some villagers had offered tea to a stranger who fell from the sky. "So what happens to Earth now?" he asked Tara. "Earth becomes what it has always been," the alien replied. "A place where different kinds of beings can find hope. But now the whole galaxy will know about this place. Your world will never be alone again." Jake looked out at the village, where human children were playing with young aliens of a dozen different species, where farmers were comparing growing techniques with beings from agricultural worlds across the galaxy, where teachers were learning new languages and sharing Earth stories with species that had their own ancient tales. His camera was almost out of power, but he filmed one last scene. Ramanji was sitting by the well with representatives from 20 different worlds, all of them drinking tea and talking about how to build a better future. The old man looked exactly the same as he had 4 days ago, as if meeting aliens and saving the galaxy was just another day's work. "Dr. Saib," the village elder called to Jake, "come and have some tea. You must be tired from all that filming." Jake smiled and put down his camera. He walked over to join the circle around the well, where humans and aliens sat together as equals, planning how to spread the network of choice and kindness to every corner of the galaxy. The question mark in his footage's title had finally been answered. This was not just real. This was the beginning of something better than anyone had ever dreamed possible.